Hello, everyone! Welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 415. So, I am in the process of uh, putting the Extra Life charity marathon event together. Planning is pretty much done. Now I'm getting stuff organized, getting all the games I need. As most of you know, I'll be playing, the main game is going to be the I almost said Trails from the Crypt. Trails in the Sky remake, Chapter 1. But that's not out yet, so I can't get that yet. And it doesn't really matter because I don't need to, play part of the game first. Unlike some of the other games, so I have, for the, for the exercise portion of the game, we got another version of fitness boxing. Last year we did Fist of the North Star, which was pretty funny. This year we're going to play the Hatsune Miku version. So I'm currently playing through that game, basically just using it as part of my workout routine every day. So that I can unlock the characters and costumes, but mainly the music tracks, specifically the Hatsune Miku music tracks, because I'm going to try and engineer some type of donation incentive where donors can pick their favorite Hatsune Miku track for me to suffer through, because I'm not a big fan of Vocaloid. Not a big fan of the sound of Vocaloid singing, so that should be fun. I also got, you can kind of see it on the shelf behind me. That's the Hunt a Killer tabletop investigative mystery game. So we'll do another one of those this year. This one apparently has some video included, and I wasn't sure if it was a link to a website that just had hosted YouTube videos, or if they were going to provide some MP4s on a thumb drive or something like that. So I actually had to open that sucker up first and see, because I needed to be able to set up OBS to accommodate however that works, so that the viewers can actually watch that bit of evidence, whatever it is. Turns out, yeah, it's not physical media. It's just there's a link to a web page that has a couple embedded YouTube videos. So I just have to display that browser with OBS. That's not a problem. So that's fine. I don't have it sitting next to me, but also got Stellar Blade, which is the After Dark, the game for the After Dark segment, and had a bit of a problem sourcing this one. The game came out last summer, or maybe around June last year or something like that. And it's never dropped from $70. And while I'm happy to pay a premium for games that I'm playing for the charity event, if I can get it cheaper, I will. Well, Best Buy sent me we love you, so here's $10 off of whatever you want. And I said, well, I'll take $10 off of Stellar Blade, please. And they said, sure. And then they canceled my order for no stated reason. I checked the stock levels. They still had the game. I don't know why they canceled it. But unfortunately, that coupon that they sent me for the $10 off was only good that one time. And I mean, I imagine if I called customer service, I could have probably had a new one issued to me or something. But turns out Walmart also had the game just on sale for $10. So ordered it from Walmart, got it today, and the package was damaged. Not the package, the actual video game case. The spine of the case was broken and partially ripped off. So I called up my local Walmart to see if, one, they had the game in stock, and two, they just swapped me for a non-broken version. And no one at Walmart answers the phone. So it's possible that, to be clear, I called 3 times uh, letting the phone ring for like 25 rings, several minutes of ringing. I also tried ringing the operator. I also tried one other department. So, either Walmart is insanely busy, or a combination of busy and just thoroughly understaffed, or there's just an enormous number of people trying to call. I didn't even get put on hold and listen to hold music. It just sat there and rang forever. No one answers the phone. So, I had to go out and get my car smog checked anyway, so got that done, so that's nice. Warren, hello. I went to Walmart. Walked over to electronics. They had several copies of the game. Then stood in line at the electronics desk. The entire electronics department, as I assumed, one person working there. Entire department. So she probably couldn't answer the phone. I was behind a guy who was behind a guy who was buying a TV and paying cash. Which means that our sole electronics employee had to verify each $100 bill to make sure that they weren't fake. It was a several $100 TV, so this was a long process. The guy in front of me wanted a printer cartridge, which he didn't grab. He just walked up to the, he just waited in line, and when the person in front who was buying a TV in cash left, he says, I need this. Luckily, he knew exactly what model of printer cartridge he wanted. He says, I want the HP color printer cartridge, blah, 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 CX90, whatever the hell it is, right? And she says, okay. And she walks away to go get it and then bring it back to him. Now, it's possible that was like locked in a case somewhere and he couldn't have physically gone to get it and bring it up to the counter. I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me. So he leaves, and I say, and I get there and like, I bought this online. It arrived damaged. I'd like to exchange it for one that isn't marred. And she says, do we have it? And I said, yep, I checked. And she says, great. Where is it? She is but one woman, manning all of electronics in Walmart, but you're telling me you knew exactly where a specific model of printer cartridge was? In fact, he says, I need the HP CX90. And she says, she's like, is it the I or the P? And he's like, oh, it's the I. Like, she knew it, like, the distinction between two different model numbers. And she knew exactly where it was, because she walked, like, 2 miles away and then came back with it. But I'm showing her a specific PS5 game, and not only is she not aware that she has it in stock, but she doesn't appear to know where the video games are. Or maybe she's just had a really long, hard day manning electronics all by herself. So it's over there with the video games. They're locked behind glass with an electronic lock now. It's at least at Walmart, it's not a physical key anymore. It's like a fob thing. So that's fun. So I walked her over to the where they keep video games and electronics, and she grabbed a new copy of Stellar Blade. And then she walked me up to, and she says, I can't do the exchange here. It has to be done at customer service. Fine. So she walked me to customer service, and I marveled at her impressive gait for having much shorter legs than I do. We got there, and I had to stand in line at customer service. Because I can't cut in front of all the people who were waiting there, even though I'd already waited in line in electronics. And, got the game and brought it home and installed it, and was actually pretty amused to find that included in the game was a little insert with the code for the pre-order bonus stuff, which I think is just an outfit. So cool. Got the pre-order. I mean, the game came out over a year ago, but I still managed to score the pre-order bonus outfit, so yay me, I guess. Like the Hatsune Miku fitness boxing, I'm also going to I think, unless I change my mind, I was originally like, we'll play it blind. But then I was thinking, I know there's a bunch of different outfits. So I think what I want to do is play through the game and unlock as many outfits as I can. Hopefully that's not like a 150-hour effort. And then do some type of outfit incentive, like donors can choose what duds Eve is sporting, because she's got a bunch of them. You start the game with 4. Now, I also need to verify how to change outfits, if it's something you can do at like any point, or if you have to be at a save station. I think as long as you're not actively in combat, you can just change your clothes. Eve's not a magical girl. See, if you're a magical girl, the bad guys will, step back and wait if you're going to do one of those magical outfit change transformations. They're like, we'll wait. Take your time. It would be super rude to attack her while she's changing her clothes. So I've played, if anyone's curious, I've played like maybe 30 minutes of Stellar Blade so far, and the one thing that caught my eye was I was aware that this game appears, at least, to have a very as they're called, the Nativa. And the first, what are they called? The Nativa. I'm like, the natives? Oh, come on, game, really? I'm not far enough into the game to catch if the game is like in on the joke, or if the game is like super pretentious and is like bent over sniffing its own farts. It like thinks it's super friggin' clever. Or, maybe I'm reading too much into the name. Maybe they're just the native and they're not actually, the natives. I noticed some unfortunate jank to the game. It's certainly a pretty game. But there's some weird stuff so far, like every time you interact with like a phone or a vending machine or a little numbered keypad to type in a code to open a door, whenever you stop interacting, you don't have control of the character for like a second and a half. You like exit out of the menu, and then and you're like, Eve, move, move, move. Oh, there she goes. I'm through the opening sequence, and I'm in the first area up to the first bench. So I literally just started the game. You're like, why did it take you half an hour to get that far? And if you've ever seen me play any video game ever, that's your answer. Because I'm very slow. Because I love environmental storytelling, and I stand around going, ooh, look at all the stuff. And yes, I thoroughly observed Eve's character model, too. And you know what I noticed? Two things jump out at me. Three things jump out at me. Number one, her hair is stupid long. The first time I went into the menu, the menu, as you might expect, just has the character model of Eve standing there, you know? But when I hit pause, it like loads the character in, and then the physics come into play, and her hair just, the first time I entered the menu, the physics affected her hair in a way that her ponytail, which goes down to like her calves, flipped around her side and just covered her entire front. She looked like Cousin It. And I thought it was really funny. It seems superb. And her hair is just yet another dangly bit. But I was particularly amused that the physics just threw all of her hair in front of her one time, and she looked like Cousin It. Number two, her butt crack appears to go all the way, well, not all the way, but about halfway up her spine. Most people's butt cracks stop roundabout where it stops, unless you've got ample cushioning on the back, then it might go up a little bit further. But I can't think of too many characters where their butt crack goes all the way up to about here. That is some amazing butt cleavage right there. Number three. She has the dumbest shoes I have ever seen. It's like they really want... Her shoes are... How to describe them? They're a platform heel. They're built so that your foot is like this, but there's no actual heel on them. They're just... You know how a lot of animals... are like look at cats. If you look at how their legs are constructed, you'll notice they're actually walking on their toes, not the entire flat of their foot. Eve's doing the same thing. She's like, and her shoe is like built for her to walk on the toes and the pad of her foot, but not the heel. The heel's just kind of suspended up in the air, but they didn't want to put an actual heel on it. So you have this really weird platform shoe where the platform is just pushed to the front of the shoe. And it looks so weird. What I thought at first is they had built the character model for heels, for heeled outfits, and this outfit didn't have a heel. And they just didn't bother flattening her foot down, reorienting her so that she can walk flat on her feet. I don't know if there are outfits where she walks flat. I've only seen 4 so far. But no, her shoes are literally built to point her foot so that she has to walk on the balls and toes of her feet. So weirdest damn shoe. I would not be surprised if this shoe actually exists. But man, that does not look comfortable. Enemies are neat. Combat so far, again, I'm like 30 minutes into the game, 10 minutes for a normal person. I don't have any of the major moves or combos or anything unlocked, but the game feels pretty good so far. Slashy slashy. I did find it kind of odd that the combos, there's a light attack and heavy attack. In most games, you usually focus on light attacks and complement with a heavy attack. So most of the combos are going to be something like light, 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 heavy, or light, light, heavy, or light, light, heavy, heavy, right? It's usually going to focus more, or even like a heavy and then light, light, light. So far, it looks like the combos are very heavy attack focused. There's a light, 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 light one, but most of the ones I've seen so far are heavy, 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 light, heavy, heavy, heavy. I think there's a light, heavy, light, heavy. They're oddly. This is not a criticism. I just found it kind of interesting that the attacks seem to be heavy attack focused so far. So what are we talking about? Is there no audio? There should be audio. Let me look. I am... Alright, so I am pushing audio. Chicago, you got... my mic keeps cutting in and out? Well, when I did my, hang on. Test, 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 1, 2, 3. I might need to get new wires here. Because I did see that when I was messing with something. I did see it stop putting sound. And I did the reaction to Bass Gang's Ghostbusters theme cover. And my audio cut out for like 4 seconds towards the beginning. That's why I had to subtitle part of it. So, hope it's not the microphone. Because the wires are much cheaper than the microphone. I'll keep an eye on it. So the mic is cutting in and out, huh? Well, that is less than ideal. Warren says my Walmart's the same way. Usually check out at the electronics to the front checkout. Chicago says, I think the mic's stable now. Which game is this you're talking about? Stellar Blade. And a cutout. Mine uses a physical lock still. Oh, the Walmart? Yeah. Yeah, I think as long as I don't touch things, it might be. Maybe it's me shaking the desk. Okay, that shouldn't do that. Yeah, okay. I'll have to... I do have the... Let me try some real quick. Test, test, test. Okay. So, because I sometimes use my mic over there so I can sit on the couch and record, I have the audio cable plugged into, I think, 2 different USB extender cables which loop around the back of my desk and go into the computer. So I just unplugged that and I have my microphone plugged straight into my computer with 1 cable. So it's possible that I doubt it's a short, but it's possible that like the connectors are getting old and they're just starting to separate a little. So I might want to get new ones. Been using them for years. Okay. Well, glad we can maybe hammer this out now instead of during the charity event. So anyway, Stellar Blade, the first 30 minutes are just fine. So anyway, the plan is to play through Stellar Blade. So I won't be hitting Stellar Blade fresh during the charity event, but Kelly will. And we'll have lots of fun outfits to play with. So I think that's the better option. Too bad I can't go to Radio Shack and get some new ones. The last thing I bought at a radio... No, it was a Circuit City. Never mind. Can't go there either. Alright, so... Last week, I talked about a bunch of video games that everyone really likes that I didn't really care for. Usually I didn't, hate any of them. They just weren't for me. They didn't do it for me. This week we're going to talk about, you do what you like. I'm going to talk about a bunch of games that I really quite like that either people didn't really like or didn't care about or nobody talks about. And the first one I'd like to talk about, iNinja, which is a goofy little cartoony ninja platformy game about a ninja who wanders around and does ninja things. And he's a very brash ninja, and all of his enemies are robots, so he can easily just cut them all in half. And there's some pretty gruesome, you know how you watch Ninja Turtles and, it's like Leonardo has katanas. He should be killing people. Probably did in the original comics. I've never read them, so I don't know. But on the show, it's like, oh, well, they're all robots, so they just explode. And in the movie, just I guess he just hits people with the flats of his blade or something like that. In iNinja, yeah, he uses his blade, but he doesn't just make these things blow up. He chops them in half and bisects them vertically, and they slide apart. And they just have green goo on the inside. It's fun. I wouldn't say it's a classic. I wouldn't say it's a great game. But there's a lot of fun ninja acrobatics and fun ninja fights. And the character is obnoxious in a fun way. I really enjoyed the game. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's one of those budget games. You pick it up for $20-$30. You have a lot of fun with it. And you're like, I enjoyed my weekend with that game. That one, I don't think I've ever heard anyone actually talk about. Chicago says that's why they made the foot soldiers robots, so it wouldn't be so violent for kids. Yeah, and in the second movie, the turtles couldn't even use their damn weapons. So they had to just, in that opening scene, they're in a toy store. Donatello, uses a yo-yo. Michelangelo uses, sausage links or something instead of his nunchucks. It's just too violent. Kids are gonna get katanas and stab people. It's no, they'll just get guns. Those are a lot easier to get. Anyway, iNinja. I thought it was fun. It was one of those, it was a GameCube era, so it was on GameCube, PS2, and Xbox. I don't think anyone disliked it. I think it kind of flew under the radar and not a lot of people knew about it. Chicago says, yeah, I hated that they removed their actual weapons for the second movie. It's yeah, because ninja weapons are cool. And then the third movie happened. It was I long for the halcyon days of Ninja Turtles movie 2. Boy, even the puppetry is terrible in the third movie. Next game that, here's a game that actually a lot of people seem to not like, but I liked, although I do recognize its flaws. Shadow of the Empire, which was a Nintendo 64 game, one of the first Nintendo 64 games. It came pretty close to them just hitting them with cream pies. Yeah, it did. Shows Star Wars Shadow of the Empire, starring Dash Rendar, I think his name was. was one of the first N64 games. The system came out the fall of '96. Mario 64 and Pilot Wings were the first two games, and by the end of the year, I think there were only 8 titles. Uh, Shadows of the Empire, I think, came out that December '96. So it was like the seventh or eighth game that came out for the N64. So if you had beaten Super Mario 64, I mean, it's Star Wars. It's pretty good. It's pretty good bet. The Doom-like Shadows of the Empire. Uh, I mean, it's there was a first-person mode. You could switch the perspective to first person if you wanted. That would make the already challenging platforming even more challenging. um, Shadows of the Empire is an N64 game in all the worst ways. It's particularly by modern standards, it is ugly as sin. It's hard to. Sometimes it's hard to. It's like, what am I looking at? The fog is almost Turok levels of close. It's really hard to see anywhere. But it did a nice job in a lot of areas. For example, one of the opening area, the Battle of Hoth snow speeder section is a classic for a reason. It is exceptionally good. Easily the best version of the Battle of Hoth anyone had had up until that point. In fact, arguably did a better job than the subsequent Rogue Squadron game would. Then you you have to fight an ATST on foot, which I think is I mean you've done stuff like that in like the Super NES Star Wars video games, but stuff was resized and done in different ways to make stuff fit on the screen. This was really the first time, at least that I remember, maybe one of the PC titles did this, but it was the first time I remember really going face to face with an ATST or anything like that, and the scale, you really feeling the scale. Puny human, really large machine, looking down at you, and you're like, oh man, I am effed, right? There's some great space battles. There's a battle with Boba Fett, which is hard as nails, mainly because the game doesn't control that great, but particularly with the jetpack, little friggin' floaty, but you know, you fight Boba Fett, and then you fight his ship, Slave One. There's a really great that train yard sequence is just kind of a pain in the ass, but when you get to the end and you're playing hide and seek as you try and get the drop on IG-88 in a big junkyard, that has a great sequence. Again, still kind of janky, but it's got it where it counts. I actually really enjoyed Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, and I imagine part of it, to be clear, I would have been 16 at the time, almost 17. So it wasn't really youthful naivete, but I would imagine this was this was probably my second game for the N64. So it was like, well, I bought this and I beat Mario 64, so if I want to play my new N64, which I bought with my own money, that was the first major purchase I ever made with my own money. I'm damn well going to enjoy it. I imagine that probably influenced my fondness of the game to an extent. But I also recognize that game's, oh, shall we say, drawbacks. But I also would argue that the game does a lot really well. So I genuinely liked Shadows of the Empire. I thought overall it was a success. Oh, and it was also, I think, the start of an inside joke with my mother and I, because there's a sequence later in the game where you have to infiltrate some Empire or bad guy base. So you're in your Outrider, whatever your not Millennium Falcon is called, and Luke Skywalker is with you in an X-Wing, and he's like, Dash, you go inside and fight the bad guys, steal the plans, rescue the princess, whatever the hell we were doing. I'll patrol around out here. It's like, oh, thanks, Jedi Knight. Oh, I'll just go in and, yeah, Dash, go in and do all the work. I'll just hang out here and secure the perimeter. And from then on, my mom and I would make that joke every time in any video game or movie some side character would tell you to go on a mission and they'll be your support. It's like, oh, I'll just patrol around outside, thanks. So that's where that inside joke came from. Jared says, might be thinking of Dark Forces. If you're comparing it more to Doom, yeah, Dark Forces would probably be a lot closer. I'd still say they're pretty distinct, but closer than Shadows of the Empire, I would think. Oh god, the swoop bike section through Mos Eisley. God damn. You see, when I was 16, 17 years old, I was still in high school, so I didn't have a job, I didn't have adult responsibilities, and I didn't have a ton of video games, so I had the patience of playing cruelly difficult crap over and over and over until I got it. I probably would not beat Shadows of the Empire today because some of the sequences, like the swoop bike section, oh my god. the you have to, like, the controls are loose enough that it makes navigating really hard. The place is a maze, but you have to go fast enough, otherwise you lose. So, yeah, you're gonna crash into a wall a lot and blow up. Yeah. So next on my list, Ace Attorney Investigations, the Miles Edgeworth spin-offs. This is not a matter of people didn't like these games as much, although the Miles Edgeworth ones were finally officially, both of them were finally officially released within the last couple of years, so that's nice. What happened was the first one came out here, and then the second one was never released, so I had to import it. Well, actually, I didn't have to import it. I just downloaded a ROM and the translation patch for it and played it that way. But I still did import it because it made me feel better. Because I would have bought it if it were available here, so I figured, well, we're even. So I have the Japanese version on my shelf in my room with the rest of my 3DS games, but I've never opened it. It's never actually been in my 3DS because I played the game on my computer because that's the only place it's in English. So, yes, I downloaded a ROM for a game that I own. I still think I'm in a moral okay area. Anyway, I liked the Edgeworth games. I thought they were a lot of fun, and they're definitely very mechanically distinct from the regular Phoenix Wright games. I thought they were a lot of fun. They're not without their issues. There's some pacing problems in both titles, I think, but overall, I thought, the scenarios were fun. I thought the mechanics were great. I thought the characters were adorable. I really liked those games, and I was bummed out that the second one was not brought over here until very, very recently. So, Miles Edgeworth games I thought were pretty good. Body Harvest. This is another N64 game. This was, I think it was a DMA design before they went to, became Rockstar. So this was a game that changed scope several times. It was a game that you might have followed through Nintendo Power and then been interested to see that it turned out a little differently than it had initially been advertised as. This game features basically you are traveling through time for some reason to fight alien bug monsters that have taken over the Earth and are eating the civilians. And in each time period, what you do is you jack any vehicle you can come across, boats, cars, trains, flying vehicles, motorcycles, military vehicles with guns, anything you can to fight the alien bug monsters as they beam down and start abducting people to eat. And it's another game that actually does a pretty decent job with scale. Because when you're on foot, wearing one of the most ridiculous video game outfits I've ever seen is basically bright orange power armor. The cars, you really feel terribly tiny against these towering titans of terror. Hooray for alliteration. But you hop in a vehicle and you feel a lot bigger because now your character is the size of a vehicle, right? They don't like scale your character down to fit in the vehicles. The vehicles are scaled to your size. So the enemy encounters are scaled to the size of the vehicles that you'd be in, whether they're tanks or whatnot. So if you're out on foot, it's like, that's a very large bug monster. I have no business fighting that thing on foot. Again, ugly as sin N64 game with incredibly close fog so you couldn't see anything, but I'll tell you, but the finding the different vehicles and there were so many different vehicles. There were like over 100 different vehicles you could steal and drive around in this game that it was really fun. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite bits, even when you, like, spoilers for a 30-year-old game, when you get to the last major area is the alien homeworld, and you get to steal alien vehicles, which is pretty good. But one of the later chapters has a zombie outbreak problem, because why not? And you get to commandeer a combine harvester. Just run over all these damn zombies and just mulch them into green goo. Oh, it's lovely. That's probably my favorite bit of the game. I was fond of the game up until that point, and at that point I'm like, okay, you got me. I am now officially in love with this game. Is it a great game? No. But it had a lot to love. It definitely feels like a game where the developer bit off more than they can chew, and the hardware wasn't up to the task of supporting their grandiose vision. So some severe compromises were made. It's amazing that game came out at all in an actual playable state, but there's a lot of genuinely lovable, goofy sci-fi weirdness to the game that I just really adored at the time. So, Body Harvest was one of the N64 games that I look back on with a lot of rosy tinted, surely, but a lot of fondness. However heavily tinted in the rose spectrum it may be. Another N64 classic that I genuinely love is called Hybrid Heaven. I've shown this one off in one of the charity events. Played it for like 7 hours. And that's when I realized you should never use the N64 controller for 7 hours straight. If you've never seen the N64 controller, this is what it looks like. This is the N64 controller. So this is your main stick, the one in the center. There's also a trigger on the back. So when you're holding this normal, you see how my wrist is at an angle here? If I'm holding it on the outside, my wrist is pretty much straight with my arm. You know, right? But if it's on the inside, I have this severe bend in my wrist is not straight with my arm. So I'm either bending my right arm this way or my left arm this way. It's really hard to hold this sucker. It's fine for a couple of hours, but 7, oh man, my wrist really hurt. Anyway, Hybrid Heaven is another really goofy, weird sci-fi game with one of the worst character outfits I have ever seen. But the wonderful thing about this game is it's kind of a turn-based RPG in its battle system. The big gimmick of the game is... Well, there's 2 major gimmicks. You target... It's kind of like in Fallout where you target different body parts. Kind of the same thing here. You can attack the head, the body, either arm or either leg. If you take out, like, one of the legs, they can't do their spinning back kick anymore. That kind of an idea. But there's also wrestling moves. You can grapple and you can suplex, or you can take him to the ground and start doing like figure 4 leg locks and stuff like that. There's a lot of wrestling moves. And how you learn all these moves is you let the enemies do them to you. So a lot of times when you hit a new enemy, you'll just kind of stand back and wait for them to take initiative and, you know, see what their moveset is. And there's this balance between letting the enemy beat on you, making sure you don't die in the process because you want to learn their moveset. And it might take a few whirlwind kicks to the head before you figure out how to do your own whirlwind kick. So you can learn all of the different punches, which range from typical straights, jabs, uppercuts, and crosses to spinning backhands, which is probably the funniest one. Which my mom and I lovingly called the bitch slap. It's supposed to be this really dynamic spinning backhand, but what happens instead is the character just turns in a circle and then does the backhand. You know, it's supposed to be this real dynamic swing around and backhand, but it's like 2 distinct moves. He just spins in a circle and then, it looks so stupid. That one didn't really come off very well. So you'll end up grappling with enemies, hoping that they'll suplex you, or take them to the ground, hoping that they'll teach you a new leg or leg lock or arm bar or something. And oh man, I had so much fun with that game. I really liked Hybrid Heaven, and it's another game that I never hear anyone talk about. Granted, it's 30 years old now, but never heard anyone talk about it at the time either. Moving on from the N64, though maybe we'll be back, I don't know. Aggressive Inline. Now, round about the years that... who the hell was doing Tony Hawk? Was it Neversoft or someone else? So, whoever was doing Tony Hawk released a new game pretty much every 10 months. If you go back and look at the release dates for Tony Hawk, they managed to put out like 8 games in 7 years or some obnoxious thing like that, which is like with franchises like the Plastic Instrument genre, Guitar Hero, Rock Band and stuff. The reason those stopped dead is they well oversaturated the market with those. I think there was an appetite for a lot of Tony Hawk games. I don't think people wanted one every 10 damn months. So they kind of killed that franchise. But there were a couple of attempts from other studios to dip their toe in that pond. Probably one of the most memorable was what was it? Dave Mira's Triple X BMX game. It's like, okay, it's like Tony Hawk, but a bike. It's like, nah, we need more. How about Tony Hawk on a bike with boobs? It's like, I like the way you think. No one else did. That game failed miserably. But there was a inline skates version of Tony Hawk called Aggressive Inline. And It was actually really good. I'm kind of surprised that least as far as I know, there was no aggressive inline too. It played really well. It was imaginative. The play areas were well laid out, well thought out, and a lot of fun. Had a nice variety of characters, had a nice variety of tricks, and felt really distinct from skateboarding. You might think it's like, I mean, is it going to feel exactly the same skateboarding? No, it actually felt distinct. I thought Aggressive Inline was a pretty good game, and I think could have grown into its own, but they never made another one, so far as I know, which is sad. Chaos says Activision. Tony Hawk was Activision. Okay. Well, Activision like published, but who was the? Did they develop it in house too? I don't remember. Um, Anyway, Activision oversaturated the market with all of their franchises, releasing 5 Guitar Hero games in 1 year. Killed that series. Yeah. 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 Oh, I forgot to tell a story of a couple weeks ago. I was, I made adult chocolate milk by making my own chocolate syrup, and that turned out pretty well. Yesterday, I think, I was trying to make adult strawberry milk. So I was making strawberry syrup, and I reduced the strawberries too far and made strawberry jam. Delicious, delicious strawberry jam. But you can't make flavored milk with jam. That just doesn't work. It just kind of sits in the bottom of the glass. So, I think I got my measurements right, at least. I got my ratio of sugar water to strawberries correct, I think, but yeah, I reduced that shit to jam. Really good jam. It's a shame I didn't have any toast, but so I think we're gonna be okay with the adult strawberry milk. Oh, okay, so the developer was Neversoft. Okay, cool. I'd have to look that up too. Let's see. Where was I? Aggressive Inline. Oh, another GameCube. One of the Capcom 5. One of which never came out. PN03. This was the dancing lady shooting robots game. It's very stark. There's not a lot going on, but it's starkness kind of, by stark I mean like wide open, clean, boring, not much visually going on. You start outside a robot base running through the desert fighting little robots that are shooting at you. And then you get inside, and it's very bland and plain and sterile and nigh monochromatic. So it's not terribly visually interesting, but it kind of works because the player character is so energetic and dynamic. She stands there and she just kind of rocks to the beat, and all of her dodges are like pirouettes, and all of her, when she like fires energy blasts out of her palms, and she vogues and strikes poses, and she has aerial walkovers in some of her larger dodges, and she has her super attacks are these complicated ballet moves with extreme pulling her legs straight up into the air, and arching her back, and doing all it's killing robots through dance and dodging projectiles through dance. And the only thing that doesn't work is her forward somersault, because she looks like it's the clumsiest thing I've ever seen. She looks like a toddler learning how to do a somersault. Weirdest damn thing. But it's a game where I was like, oh man, I really want to see the reference footage of whatever performer they got to model this character's moveset off of. I bet that would be a lot of fun to watch. Um, it's a very simple game. There's not a lot going on, but I really did enjoy that game. It's one of those games that its simplicity actually kind of works for it because it's one of those kind of Zen type of games where it's like you go into a room, there's a bunch of robots, you're moving to the beat and you dodge, dodge, zap, zap. It's almost like what's the up, up, down, down, chew, 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 Space Channel 5. It's tangentially kind of that feeling where you just kind of feel the beat and you veg out and you blow up robots. So I really enjoyed Piano 3. I don't know that anybody else did. Let's see what's next. Another GameCube game that many are pretty sour on, but I thought was quite good, in fact. Starfox Adventures. Yes, I think Starfox Adventures is a solid adventure platformer game. I don't think it's a very good Star Fox game. I'll grant you that. But as a kind of Zelda-y adventure game, I thought it was a lot of fun. I don't know why people were so down on it. Maybe they really wanted a Star Fox game. But I'll tell you, the Star Fox elements are easily the weakest elements of the game. Honestly, they should just kept it Dinosaur Planet because the Star Fox elements do feel crowbarred in. And the explicit Star Fox elements, like the R-Wing bits between stages, and the fact that the big bad of the game is just yeeted out of the plot so that you can fight Andross in an R-Wing for no reason at all. General Scales, that's his name. You finally confront General Scales at the end of the game, and then Andross just picks him up and chucks him into the ether, and you get in your R-Wing and you fight Andross. It's like, what are we doing? Contractual obligation? What's going on here? Yeah, that basically all the Star Fox stuff sucks. Maybe it would be better to say, I bet Dinosaur Planet is a great game. Would have been a great adventure game, but they had to forcibly cram a bunch of Star Fox stuff up its butt, and it's viscerally uncomfortable. You know, imagine like the coolest, suavest person you know. Now imagine how cool and suave they'd be if they had a Fox McCloud. This joke would have sung if I could remember what the hell Amiibo. Pretend I didn't have this humongous pause and I actually got the timing of this joke correct. Coolest, suavest person you can imagine. Now imagine how suave and cool they would be if someone forcibly jammed a Fox McCloud amiibo up their ass. You're like, huh, I like the cut of this person's jib. They're a cool and suave person, but they seem to be kind of sitting funny. They seem really uncomfortable. It's unnatural the way they're walking and sitting. Right? I don't think you did this cool, suave performer any favors by forcibly jamming a Fox McCloud amiibo up their butt. I think anyone could have told you that, but live and learn, I suppose. Here's another one that almost no one talks about, and the few that do say, why is this a thing? I don't know anyone other than me who actually played it, but Dragon Quest Swords. This was a Dragon Quest. Now, if you didn't know, Dragon Quest is my favorite RPG series. Probably always will be. Much in the same vein that Ghostbusters is my favorite movie. I wouldn't say either are the best examples of their medium or genre. They're just my favorites, and probably always will be. I recognize there's better movies than Ghostbusters, and there's better games, and I dare say better RPGs than Dragon Quest. But I think it'll always be my favorite. Nevertheless, Dragon Quest Swords is a Dragon Quest spin-off for the Wii with waggle controls, something I never liked. How this game works is you use the D-pad to, it's kind of tank controls, but it's first person, so it kind of works. Left, right spins you left and right on an axis, and pressing forward just makes you go forward. That works for when you're in a town. Typically, when you're outside, you are on rails and you just hold forward to continue along the path until you hit a monster, at which point you have to use your slashy slash movements with your Wii remote to slash the monsters on the screen. Now, a lot of times what happens is you'll get, for example, like a flying enemy, a couple flying enemies, and they will orient themselves in particular patterns, so you swipe, left to right or right to left or vertically or horizontally to hit as many bad guys in one swipe as you can. And so you use the pointer to pick an anchor point on the screen, and then you hold the button, and if you swipe up and down, it'll go vertically through the point you're holding or horizontally or diagonally or whatever. So if you're fighting a multi-headed dragon, you'd click on the head and then you'd start slashing at that one head. Or you'd click where all the heads are in a row and try to slash across and hit all of them. It's a very simple game. It's a very watered down version of Dragon Quest, but for what it is, I felt that it worked really well, and it retained the aesthetic and charm of Dragon Quest. So honestly, I really liked it. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked if it was like 80 hours long. It's a comparatively short game, to its credit. It doesn't, I felt it did not overstay its welcome. I felt that it knew exactly what it wanted to be, and it achieved that while keeping the feel and the charm and the identity of Dragon Quest. I think it was, as a spin-off, a very successful one of those. I didn't want any more of those. Like, I didn't finish the game thinking, man, I want Dragon Quest Swords too. No, don't. But as a one-off little curiosity, I actually really liked Dragon Quest Swords. Let's see. Hey, remember Project Rainfall? Back in 2010, 11, somewhere in there. There were a couple of games that were localized and released in Europe, but not North America. So these were Japanese games that were in Japanese, but were localized into English for a European release, but never made it across the pond. And there were a bunch of these, but this was a frustratingly frequent tactic that Nintendo was employing at the time. They'd have a bunch of these cool-looking Japanese games, and they'd localize them and only release them in that region and not here. Well, there was a little grassroots campaign going on focusing on 3 of the titles, Pandora's Tower, The Last Story, and the one you've heard of, Xenoblade Chronicles. That campaign, for what it's worth, was a success. And Xenoblade Chronicles went on to have more entries in the series. It has 2 sequels and well, I guess X is a sequel. So is it a sequel? Is it a spin-off? I'm not actually sure. There's a Xenoblade 2, a Xenoblade 3, and an X. And I guess the DLC side stories, if you want to, the Torna thing and hell, there was the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles X, which added a new story element, future perfect, future something. So, hooray. Now, Operation Rainfall, yes. Now, I did, as I said in my first YouTube video, Nintendo, why won't you let me give you my money? I did end up buying all of those, and I quite liked all of them. Xenoblade Chronicles I liked, Pandora's Tower I liked, and the last story I really liked. The last story is actually my favorite of the three Rainfall games. And Pandora's Tower and Last Story are kind of lost to history. They never had any follow-ups, but I really liked the last story. I thought it had a... As an RPG, it's interesting because it takes place primarily in one main hub town, and then you kind of branch out into different places on quests from there. So you have one really large, really dense and complicated and detailed town to hang out in. Normally in these games, you have an entire continent with towns and kingdoms and stuff dotting the map. This one, no, it's just that one main castle town. What I really like about this game is the characterization is really nice. I like the characters' individual personalities and how they play off each other. The overall story is pretty decent. You do get to play dress up mode. All the armor shows up different on the different characters, and if you take it all up, they run around in their underwear, which of course is my favorite way to play a game. Um, the battle system is really unique. It's kind of a hybrid direct action, take your turn-based kind of a thing. It's difficult to describe partially because it's been a while since I played it. I don't remember it terribly well anymore. But one thing I really remember is I felt that it handled multiple characters. It's one of those games where you have more party members than can be in an active party at the same time. I think there's like 7 or 8 main characters in the game, but you can only have like 4 at a time. The game does a really nice job of forcing you into different selections of characters. Typically, your party are hanging out at like an inn, and you'll get quests in various means that'll be appropriate for some members over others. It's like, oh, this means something to me, or this has to do with my family. I'm definitely in on this quest. And then other characters will be like, I've got my own stuff to do, or I'm genuinely not interested. I'm tired. I'm gonna go drink the day away. You guys have fun with that. So I think that the game does a really nice job of matching you up with different combinations of characters and having it feel organic. One thing that I don't enjoy as much in RPGs is when you get a ton of different characters, you know, like you do in Cold Steel, where you have like 9 to 11 characters, but you can only have 6 in your active party, 4 on the field, and 2 in... Actually, can you have 7? I think you can have 7. Is it? Not 6. 7? 6 or 7. Doesn't matter. I prefer just having a party of characters. You know, I don't mind if they... It's one of the things that Skies of Arcadia did pretty well. You start the game, you pretty much have Vice, Ina, and the other one, whose name I don't remember. Um, Aika? Is that her name? Do I have the other girls in it? Fina? Shoot. Anyway, so the 3 main kids, and the fourth is usually like for the beginning of the game, it's the old fisherman guy. Then he dies, or does he? And then you team up with I think the defecting prince from the bad guys, and then he goes off in something, and then you're teamed up with the rogue guy, the skirt chasing guy, and then you get to the end of the game and you pick one of the 3 to accompany you to the end game, something like that, right? Last Story, I think I like the way the Last Story handled a cast that was larger than the number of people that were allowed in a party at the time. I thought it was visually interesting. I thought the battle system was fun. I thought the story was fun. I thought the characters were great. I really liked the last story. I actually like the last story better than Xenoblade Chronicles. Although I will say that Xenoblade Chronicles has the better world. Um, I think Xenoblade Chronicles has one of the best realized worlds of as far as like open, explorable, wander around kind of worlds. Right up there with Breath of the Wild slash Tears of the Kingdom's Hyrule. Uh, Granted, the last story is not really that type of game. There isn't, basically, the world is just that one town that you're in. So, let's see. Cass says, if I recall correctly, Xseed published the last story in North America, and it was, at the time at least, their best selling game. That sounds right. Do I have it? No, I think, oh, actually, it is right there. The box I have in, on my shelf in my bedroom, but let's see. Ah, yep. Good memory. Let's see. Yep. Xseed. Which took me an embarrassingly long couple of minutes, or however it was, before I recognized that, X seed. I'm like, oh, X seed. Okay. Oh, exceed. I see what you're doing there. I get it now. I'm a smart person. So last story. I really quite like this game. Metroid Other M. We talked about this at length last week, but it's a game that I do think the writing is bad and the characterization is awful. And the story just generally sucks on its own without the bad, right? It's just conceptually just kind of a crap story. But I thought it was fun to play, even though the control scheme was not how I wanted to play it. The control scheme at least worked, just not how I wanted to play the game. It was certainly an attractive game for a Wii game at the time. And it's, the combat is fun and the environments are interesting and the exploration works really well. But yeah, the story and characters are not good, but fun game to play. Let's see, how are we doing on time? 3 more. I actually, 3, 6, 9, 11. I cut 11 out of the list here, so 3 more. Another Wii game, Rabbids Go Home. This was these were like just little side characters that Ubisoft had in the Rayman games that got spun off into their own franchise. And this was their little adventure platformer game. And it's kind of like Katamari Damacy, only fun. As we saw last week, I'm not a big fan of Katamari Damacy, and this one doesn't really work that way. The gimmick of the game is the Rabbids want to build a pile of garbage to the moon, because they feel like that would be a great place to take a nap. So they run through all the game's various levels in a shopping cart, and push a shopping cart along, picking up anything that's not nailed down and putting it in the shopping cart. Now, unlike Katamari Damacy, whatever they run into just goes into the shopping cart. They don't have to start with the small stuff and then get bigger. It's just whatever's not nailed down, they put in the shopping cart. And as just a fun little action platformer, I thought it was a lot of fun to play, and its humor worked for me. So I really liked Rabbids Go Home, even though I've never been a huge fan of the Rabbids themselves. I thought that game worked nicely. Another game I think I played during one of the Extra Life events. Second to last, the game that I think is the only game, when Nintendo first showed off the Wii U, which had their, they're like, here's the Wii U, we've got a screen on the controller. And I, along with, I'm sure, many others, thought to themselves, okay, why, though? Why is there a screen on the controller? I'm not looking at this, I'm looking at the TV. Why is there a screen on the controller? how does this help my game? And some people are like, well, I mean, you could put a map or the inventory on that screen. It's like, sure. But if I'm looking at the map or the inventory, I'm looking away from the television. So I may as well just pull up the map or the inventory on my TV. So again, what is the point of this screen? How does it make my game better? Give me an example of a game where I go, oh, I get it. The game wouldn't feel or play or be as fun if I didn't have the second screen. And Nintendo said, we have absolutely no idea. We have no ideas for this. Someone just said screen on the controller, and we said, why not? Maybe we'll put a map or a stuff on it, and that was about it. And like, they had absolutely no ideas. But Ubisoft did. And they came out with a game called ZombiU, which I love. Probably my favorite Wii U game. In the same way that Ghostbusters is my favorite movie, and Dragon Quest is my favorite RPG series. Certainly not the best, but I think it's my favorite because it's the only game that makes a case for why the controller has a screen on it. ZombiU was actually eventually ported to the PS3 and the 360, those consoles, if I'm not mistaken. So the game can be played without the second screen, but I would argue that it fundamentally changes the experience. For those of you who are not aware, ZombiU is as the name might imply, a zombie survival game where you are wandering around a zombie apocalypse. Where are we? London? Somewhere in England. And trying not to get eaten by zombies. Now, you have a backpack with limited space, so you can pick up food for restorative properties. You can pick up melee weapons. You can pick up guns and ammo, but you've only got so much space in your backpack. Now, the gimmick is you can take stuff out of your backpack and put them in your pockets so that you can have them at the ready. But if there's something in your backpack, like a key or more ammo or something, or different weapon that you need, you're going to have to take a knee, get off your backpack, and start pawing through your backpack to go get the stuff you need. Take the stuff out of your pockets, put it in the backpack, and then get the stuff out of your backpack. The backpack contents are on this screen. What's on the main television is your character crouching and pawing through their backpack. Well, the zombies are still wandering around and could bite you in the butt. So the game really makes you feel like you're taking off your backpack and frantically looking through it while, looking up at the TV to make sure nothing's sneaking up on you. And then going back to your backpack. Okay, there's nothing there. It's like, oh shit, a zombie's coming, quick, where's my shit, and stand up and start shooting, right? The game does a great job of... ZombiU is the only game that actually justifies the presence of the damn screen on the controller, and it wasn't even made by Nintendo. For my money, it is the only game where the second screen feels like an integral part of the experience. You remove that part of the experience, you fundamentally change the experience of the game. If any Wii U game that used the second screen as a map or an item screen, you just put them in a sub-menu on the main TV. It doesn't change the experience in any fundamental way, in my humble opinion. So, while you could play ZombiU, although it was just called Zombie, I think, on the PS3 and the 360, it was a fundamentally different experience, and I would argue a lesser experience, because frantically searching through your backpack was a big part of the tension of the game and how you had to manage how things work. So I really like ZombiU. Not many people did. Let's see. Chaos says, I used to watch E3 and take notes of my thoughts of the announcements. I distinctly remember writing about the Wii U. It will live or die by the gamepad. It kind of died. Oh, it was ported to PS4 and Xbox One? Huh. Okay. Well, it was. Let's say it was ported to the PlayStation and the Xbox. Whichever ones it was. I'll take Chaos's word for it. So ZombiU, I like it. Lastly is a trio of games. Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise, Yakuza Dead Souls, and Yakuza 3. I am a huge fan of the Yakuza or Like a Dragon franchise. I love those games dearly. One of my favorite series of games of all time. They did RGG Studios did a spin-off of a Fist of the North Star game, which is just a Yakuza game, right? In its mechanics, just with all the Fist of the North Star trappings, the characters and the location and the story. It wasn't like an isekai where Kenshiro got isekai to Kamurocho, right? That's not what it is. It's genuinely a Fist of the North Star characters and setting and story, but the gameplay mechanics are very like a dragon. There's you go on side quests, you have the skill tree, the way the combat works is very, very similar. There's all kinds of little side mini games. You can run a bar at one point. You actually manage a cabaret. There's all kinds of fun little side activities. I really liked the game. And the same thing with Yakuza Dead Souls. That one actually takes place in the Yakuza universe and is canon. It's just that nobody wants to talk about the zombie thing that happened in Kamurocho that one time, but it totally happened and it's totally canon. So saith I. Yakuza Dead Souls. The controls are not very good. And the frame rate is worse. But other than that, which is a lot, I'll grant you, but other than the bad controls and frame rate, I thought the game was an enormous amount of fun. So basically it's a Yakuza game, but zombies show up, and instead of punching all of them, all of our characters, Kiryu and Majima and whoever else is in the game, have guns and shoot the zombies. And that engine was never built for gunplay, so it doesn't work as well as you'd want it to. But it definitely has all of the flavor and humor and imagination of the Yakuza games. It has a hugely complicated story. There's still side quests and side activities. And yes, even during the zombie apocalypse, you still go to the cabaret club and romance the ladies, which is a great use of your time during the zombie apocalypse. I thought it was, going in, I was like, oh, this is just the zombie shooter Yakuza game. No, it's a Yakuza game in which you shoot zombies instead of punching ruffians who keep approaching you on the street and really should know better. You think word would get around after a decade and change of this gigantic, mean-looking Japanese guy who just beats the ever-loving snot out of anyone who even looks at him funny? I don't know why people keep approaching Kiryu on the street and giving him shit. The guy's a head taller than everyone, built like a brick shithouse, and scowls like Charles Bronson. It's like, and he has a reputation for, just pounding people's faces into the pavement. Like, do not tangle with that guy. I think one of the funniest conceits that those games consistently do is occasionally you will get in a fight with, like, usually due to like a side quest or something. You'll find yourself in the negative graces of just some office worker or some drunk guy, and you'll have to fight him just that guy by himself, and you feel like an asshole because it's one punch and you just lay his ass out. Because of course you're Kiryu Kazuma. This is just some drunk asshole. But there's at least one of these in every single one of these games where you end up having to fight just one idiot. And it's just like punch, and it's like, oh, it's like, what did you think was gonna happen, man? Now I feel bad for punching you. I love those games so much. And Yakuza 3 seems to be the black sheep of the series, seems to be everyone's least favorite. And I think it's because the story doesn't... it starts out in Okinawa, where Kiryu is running an orphanage. But the first thing that happens in the game is Haruka, who at this point is like maybe 14 or something like that, is sitting on the beach in Okinawa in front of the orphanage, looking out at the ocean, admiring the pretty waves, and maybe waiting to spot a dolphin or something, when Kiryu Kazuma, bare-chested, emerges from the ocean, carrying a spear and a fish, like a big old tuna or something like that. You know, for the orphan kids, because this is dinner. Because Kiryu does not fish for dinner. When Kiryu wants fish, Kiryu walks into the ocean and he fucking takes a fish. The funniest. I love these games so much. He just walks in, grabs a fish, and got dinner. There's like 8 or 10 orphans or something like that, and the first act of the game takes place in Okinawa and is really a lot of character development, and there's still plenty of beating up hoodlums in Okinawa, but most of the game is getting to know all of the kids and their personalities and their stories, and doing little side quests that revolve around them. One wants to ask one out and wants to know how to be cool like Uncle Kiryu. One is trying to save a dog that's been bullied or something like that. And I think a lot of people, after 2 games in Kamurocho, or at least primarily Kamurocho, I think that threw a lot of players for a loop. They're like, when are we going to Kamurocho? When's the story start? I don't care about all these stupid orphan kids. I think I will definitely agree that Yakuza 3 is certainly leisurely paced in its opening act. But that's actually where I started. So I guess the inconsistent pacing didn't feel incongruous to me, because that's where I started. I did play the opening chapter of Yakuza 4 first, but this was essentially my first Yakuza experience. Also, as most of you know, I'm a big story and environment guy. I play games very slow anyway, so. But yeah, I genuinely like the Fist of the North Star game, the Dead Souls game, and I like Yakuza 3. So, let's see. Jared says I hated 6. I didn't hate 6. I would definitely say that 3 is better than 6, but there's so much to 6 that there's a lot to like. Like, it's like, I love the fishing, or it's not fishing, but the spear fishing minigame in 6. I love the baseball management team in 6. I love how maturely that game handles Haruka's story. I like I love the fact that Kiryu kind of mellows out and just makes a bunch of friends his own age. There's an entire set of mini games in that game that are just going to a bar and just drinking with your peers. You make some friends and you talk to them and you drink with them, and it's really, I don't think it would work anywhere near as well, if at all, if you started with 6, because it'd be slow and boring. But after several games of, after growing up with Kiryu and experiencing pretty much his entire life since he got out of prison. I genuinely found it sweet and charming, and in some ways, if you're invested in the character, an actual relief to see Kiryu open up and actually make meaningful friendships with just average people. I thought it was incredibly wholesome. Um, I will say, however, that there are the luckily they're brief, but the taking care of baby Otar, the baby, I can't remember the name. There's a sequence in the game where you have to walk around with the baby and go get milk or something like that, and every once in a while he starts fussing, so you have to play Upsy Daisy, or there's a couple other things that you can do, and it's really annoying. Partially because babies are annoying. They're so selfish and needy. And partially because the controls don't work terribly well. If I remember correctly, some of the controls are like, you have to use the motion on the 6-axis, or you have to brush the screen to do weird stuff, and it takes for a while, and it's kind of picky, and I hate it. I think it has some of the least interesting characters in the game, like Haruto, is that the kid's name? Um, like the main the kid who's the father, he's just kind of uninteresting. The two other members of that clan are just not really memorable or interesting. One of the main villains is pretty cool. The sequence in the middle of the game where they start chucking the baby around like a football is hilarious. Um, I think where the hell is that? Is it Hiroshima? Where is the location? Is one of the least probably, with the exception of one of the areas in Yakuza 5, probably one of the least interesting maps to wander around. Um, so yeah, I might say that 6 is probably the weakest of the series, but I still found a lot to like about it. Of course, you know, game number 6, you're kind of either in it or you're not. So even though while I recognize probably the weakest of the entries, still a lot I really liked about it. Jared, yeah, narrative didn't care for. Yeah, the overarching story was just kind of like I found the personal drama stuff I enjoyed. Uh, the stuff revolving around Kiryu and his personal life, and Haruka and her personal life, and how their lives intersect and how they don't. That I liked. Pretty much everything else surrounding that I didn't really care about. The whole bit with the ship, and none of that stuff really grabbed me. I was like, oh, okay. You know, so I agree with Jared on if that's unless you didn't like any of it. Yeah, the overarching narrative to the game kind of left me cold, but the interpersonal drama I thought worked, or at least worked for me. And Jared agrees the baseball was fun. Yeah, I thought the baseball minigame was a lot of fun. Because if I'm remembering right, you not only manage but you also play, which is fun. Okay, so again, went long. I'm glad I cut a dozen games out of my list of games I like that I seem to be somewhat in the minority on. So, PSA, after the charity event this year, I'm going to stop posting on Twitter. My Twitter account will still be there. If DMing me on Twitter is the only way you can reach me, that's fine. I get notifications. But I'll be for the last year or so, I've been cross-posting to both Twitter and Blue Sky. I've been looking for an alternative home for from Twitter for years. The first one I tried, I think, was Threads, and that one completely fell apart, which is why I've been using Blue Sky for a year or so now, and that seems like it's going to persist, so I think that is where I will make my permanent social media home for the foreseeable future. So, if you would like to continue reading my various goofy social media musings, you can find me over at Blue Sky. It's linked in my Twitter bio. So there you go. And that's all for today. I hope you're all having a nice weekend, and join me tomorrow for some more Trails Cold Steel 2. That's what we're doing. More Cold Steel 2 tomorrow. So, till then, have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.